Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 186. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
we are back again for a movie week episode, or I guess, yeah, movie episode. This is Sutra Side Talk. Every week we talk what we've been watching and playing, and this week we are talking Creed 3 and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Both very similar and also not similar whatsoever. I
They're
just
both
want to
very
say,
popular movies.
but yeah,
Although
but one a
Creed
little bit
3 is
older
like,
than the other.
yeah, Creed 3, we're probably lucky to finally still see it in theaters because we were like almost the last people in that entire theater.
Yeah. To give a it's actually really funny, you guys. We had a whole plan. I was like, oh, February is ending right now. There's a bunch of movies we got to go check out, and there's like a movie pretty much March through April. Every week there's a movie to go see. And, you know, if you guys listen to that last episode, you know what happened. But more or less, none of that happened. Zero movies were watched. And it was just like, oh man. And finally, like, I mean, when Super Mario Bros. Came out, we got to see it the opening weekend, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then Creed 3, yeah, barely got to see it. It's in like two theaters nearby that we could potentially go to. And so got to see that finally. There's plenty of other movies to see. There's a bunch we're skipping, like we're just like, Cocaine Bear. I think it's already on Peacock, apparently.
Yeah. I'm hoping to
Uh,
see John Wick 4 like next week if it's still in theaters. I gotta
oh,
hope.
that's gonna be in theaters still.
Yeah,
That just got
probably.
there. Yeah, so you have time to see John Wick 4, but I've already seen it, so then we'll talk about that with another movie when we have a little bit more under the belt, but it shouldn't I'd say probably pretty soon we'll talk about it. Well, actually no, it might be a few weeks at the very least because of what's other episodes we'll have that are coming out. But it'll be paired up with like I don't know what else is coming out. I feel like a bunch of maybe Evil Dead. I feel like is a good one to pair it up with Evil Dead
Yeah.
Rise because that for sure seeing that. Maybe Scream 6. I'll throw that in there as well. I know you're not going to watch it, but I do want to. I was going to rewatch the first four Scream movies that I've seen. I still have to see 5, and then I'm really looking forward to seeing 6 in the theaters. But yeah, plenty of movies to see. The reason it's kind of hard to tell when we'll be able to do an episode on it. I haven't really planned that far ahead. Right now, I'm looking at like the next 3 weeks of stuff, which, this week we're doing movies. Last week, if you guys caught us, we did The Last of Us series from HBO. And the week before that, we had a couple anime shows, Spy Family Part 2 and the third and final season of Bomb Psycho. But next 2 weeks, we are doing a two-parter for Destiny, Lightfall, part 1, which is going to cover season of the Seraph, as well as mainly the campaign and kind of some destination stuff for Lightfall. And then part 2, which will come out the following week, which we're actually recording separately. They're not going to be like back-to-back recordings, just because they'll have different guests on them. Will be more of like all the UI changes and everything else from like, we get we have loadouts now for weapons and gear. There's a lot of other changes that have been going on. Talking about Strand itself as a subclass will be in one or the other parts. That's kind of like one, depending on how time we're looking at that point. Part 2 will also have the raid, Root of Nightmares, as well as Season of Defiance. So there's plenty to talk about there. The week after, most likely, not for sure, but most likely will be like a Star Wars episode, Bad Batch season 3, and season
All
2.
right. I still gotta watch that.
Is that
The
season 2?
Mandalorian is ending next week too.
Oh, okay. Wait, is it Bad Batch season 2 or 3? I already forgot.
2.
Is it 2? Okay.
Pretty
Bad
sure.
Batch season 2 and Mandalorian season 3 because it's about to end, this coming week. So pretty much that's the soonest we can do Mandalorian because of Destiny. So that's why it's like, oh, we'll see when we can talk more movies, but
Yeah.
we're pretty much going through all that stuff first. And I'm still trying to figure out scheduling for Bring Back Cut of Steel when we're going to talk Shazam, Fury of the Gods, which we still have to see before it leaves theaters. That's another one. And then Black Adam, which is on HBO Max now, I think. So, which I did see in theaters. We did see in theaters, and yeah,
It
uh,
was okay.
it was something. But yeah, that's pretty much like kind of all the stuff going on. Otherwise, this week's been okay. Just did some late taxes maybe. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good. This last week has been like super busy at work just because we got like a couple studies we're trying to get done like way faster than we normally do. Just I'm not 100% sure why. It's just like for some reason we need these whole studies done like within a month,
Hmm.
basically. So we've been like scrambling to try to get shit done as fast as possible. And so this like next week I'm gonna have like a lot of samples to run for like certain tests on each day. So I'm trying to like budget out my energy for the next week already.
Understandable. Okay. Otherwise, no news this week. It's just all going to be pretty much these two movies, which I guess we'll just go ahead and get started because we don't want to be here too late. So starting off with Creed 3. James, you actually just recently saw Creed 2 for the first time,
Yeah, I
right?
literally watched it on Friday because I was like, ah shit, Creed 3 is leaving theaters. We gotta see it. And like I should probably watch Creed 2. It's funny because like literally that day, like I was talking to a coworker about it, and they mentioned that like, oh, you can skip Creed 2. There's like not really much plot development for like the entire series for that one. But like I really like that one at least. Like not to get too much into Creed 2 before we get into Creed 3, but like I like that they brought back Ivan Drago and his son Victor Drago as like like villains, I guess, for that one. Because
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm a huge fan of like the Rocky movies, like at least up to four. Because like five, that one had some issues, and I never even watched Rocky Balboa. But it's cool to see. It was cool to see like a callback to like previous characters and stuff like that, especially like their personal connection to Adonis. And yet somehow, even with like that personal connection to like literally Ivan killed Adonis's like father Apollo in the ring, like somehow Creed 3 felt like an even more personal story because it's like it wasn't just like, oh, Adonis's history with his father versus Victor's father. It was literally the Dion Anderson in this one, the Jonathan Majors plays, had like personally knows Creed, and they have like personal beef. So like I liked that made the like final fight at the end of the movie not just about, who wants to win the title. It was
Or like
literally like
lineage or anything like that. Yeah.
it was like a very personal story. So it was very fun to watch. Very cool.
Yeah. Uh, I think I mean, like, I guess this is the first time talking about Creed on the show. I feel like Creed 2 came out while the show existed. I don't remember why we never talked about it, honestly. I don't recall.
Like from what I
But
remember when it came out was like it didn't launch with as much fanfare as the first Creed did, because I absolutely loved the first Creed movie, and for some reason I never heard anyone say you need to go see Creed 2 versus Creed 1. It was like, oh my god, this movie's amazing, you got to see it.
Creed 2, I'll say just this before we get into 3. Uh, I mean, I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
I
I liked
liked
it
it
a
a
lot.
lot. I think what I didn't expect was at the end, I was like, I wasn't rooting for Drago. I was rooting for Adonis, but you felt more the tragedy with Drago
Yeah,
because of like the whole thing with his father and everything between those
dude,
two, their relationship with each other.
the scene when they're having like the dinner with the rich folk and his like mom shows up and he just like loses it and just wants to leave, and he's like, why are we here with these people that like they abandoned you, all of these people abandoned you because like why, because you lost, like fuck them.
Yeah.
So
And
when his mom like leaves at the end of the, like not even at the end of the fight into like, she's literally just like, oh, he's losing, we could leave, and it's like she has no faith in her son or whatever. She's just like, fuck him, we'll leave. And then I thought that was gonna, like, Victor was gonna like have a third wind or whatever to be like, oh, I'll show her or whatever. It's like, no, he was just crushed at that point.
yeah, he
And
was
I was
done.
like sad.
But he was like still going to the point where it was just like he was gonna go the way Apollo did, where Drago
Hmm.
killed him and Rocky didn't throw in the towel, and it was like a weird reversal. where you're like, oh my god, Adonis is gonna kill Drago, and you're like, oh god, please don't kill
It
Drago. I
was
feel
really
bad for the
interesting to
guy.
see
Like, don't hurt
Ivan
him.
like
Uh,
throw in the towel
yeah,
and just like hold his son and just like, it's okay, it's okay.
yeah. And then they go
Yeah.
jogging together at the end. I was like, yes. Uh,
It's also really interesting to see Victor show up in Creed 3 as like kind of a friend.
yeah, which we'll definitely get to. And like, the cool thing about Creed 3, it's much different because you know a lot of the times Sylvester Stallone's played a very very big role in
He
the Creed
wasn't even in it
movies.
at
He's always
all.
been in Rocky, to the point where he's even like been in charge of the movies practically for a lot of it. I can't remember if he how much he was involved with Creed 2. I think I feel like he was one of the writers. Yeah, he was one of the writers for it. So he was had a hand in these movies, but you know, he exits himself out in 2. And in 3, it's very interesting because it's just Creed. It's only Michael B. Jordan. There isn't any Rocky really.
Yeah, they never even one time are like, man, I wonder how Rocky's doing
They don't
or
even mention him
whatever.
by name. Like
Yeah.
it's very much just kind of like cut, which I don't think there's any bad blood. I mean, there could be. I have no idea.
No, it's just that like he's old and retired, like super retired, and
Yeah,
like the nice thing at the end of the last movie was like
he
he
goes to see his
finally
family.
he reached out to see his son, and he's just like now he could be happy again, maybe.
Yeah, and actually, it shows he's got writing credits for this apparently.
Hmm, okay.
But the cool thing about this was it was directed by Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
He directed and starred in the film. I think he also wrote in it too. No, apparently he didn't. Okay. I couldn't tell, but I believe he produced it as well. Uh, Michael B. Jordan had a great time with this because he is a fan of something many of us are fans of, and that's anime. And when you find out, you're like, oh man, Michael B. Jordan really likes anime. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to incorporate anime into this, like a lot of influences and stuff. And you're like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, oh, you know, Naruto and Dragon Ball. And you're like, wait, what do you mean by that? And I wasn't sure what to expect. Like the minute you see Jonathan Majors' character comes in as Dame, or was it Dame, right?
Diamond Dame Anderson.
Yeah. When he comes in as Dame, like you're just kind of thinking like you see in the trailer, if you see in the trailer, you kind of know what's going on. It's like, oh, this dude's pretty much false flag of like friendship, and he's gonna end up like betraying Michael B. Jordan because of like their own past and everything else. And uh it's very much just Naruto and Sasuke from Naruto, like,
Oh my god, you're right.
and you don't real. It's funny because when he first mentions, oh, it's anime, and I'm not even someone that's watched Naruto. This is the funny part. I've never watched Naruto besides maybe like random 1 or 2 episodes randomly. I don't even know how far in or wherever they were in the series or anything, but I know enough like around it of like, oh, this is like the whole situation of the show. It's like, oh, you know, these 2 guys have been friends, you know, one goes bad, his brother's like a killer, all this shit. And I know that full like I don't know the full like in-depth history, but I know the gist of it. And watching this, I'm just like, oh, yeah, it's fucking Naruto Sasuke. Okay, I see where you're going with this. And you don't really think much more of it until you get to the fights, because once you get into the actual fight between them, it gets very much of just like, yo, here's anime fights right now in terms of James, you were pointing it out if you want to talk about like how in depth it was.
Yeah, like I mean, granted, I can't take full credit of this because people have literally been posting like images from like Creed 3 over like anime cells, and like one of the ones that's super stands out is like you mentioned Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball, and there's like one shot in in the movie where Creed gets like hit in like the gut like really hard, and he literally basically just like crumples around
The
Dame's
punch.
fist,
Yeah.
and people were like, "That's literally like an exact image from Dragon Ball where like Goku does that to Frieza, and Frieza's just like, whoa." It's just like, oh my god, that's literally perfect.
Yeah. So there's like multiple scenes of just the actual techniques that occur that are like, I guess, like pick by pick with like fantasy
Another
anime
thing,
scenes.
I can't tell what like anime it might be from specifically, but it was like a thing that kept happening throughout the movie was Creed just like seeing an opening like shot, or and just like analyzing his like opponent and just waiting for the perfect like
Anime
time to strike.
monologue.
And that's like, dude, that happens in anime so often where
Yeah.
it's just like
Main
it looks
character is
like,
like, oh man, wait, his
yeah,
defense just slowed.
it's like, oh, it looks like the main character's losing because he's not getting any shots, and it's like, oh no, he's just waiting for the perfect moment to surprise everyone.
Yeah. So, which is really fantastic. So you have just those POVs, and then there's the sheer fact that I forgot to turn off Discord. I was like, all of a sudden things started popping up. I was like, what the hell is this? There's the sheer fact that the fight itself, when they're going through, they start off, which guys, you're gonna love it. It's in the Dodgers Stadium.
Yeah, dude,
Uh,
I literally
it was
laughed when that
outside.
happened, and I was like, I didn't even think you would even do that. Like,
Yeah, they
what?
did it because of the sheer amount of people they wanted to bring in, because it's like, oh, this is an insane amount of people.
And they called it the Battle for Los Angeles, and I was just like, that's so fucking funny.
Yeah, and when you see it in the beginning, they're fighting and it's a full crowd, everyone's there, and you're like hearing it. It's like visual, it's audible, everything. And at a certain point, they switch up the way it's going, and they turn it into like, oh, it's like there's nothing out there. It's just all kind of pitch black outside of the ring, and all you hear is them. There's no surrounding of anything of the people
Because
that
like
are
they're
right
just
on
completely focusing on each other
each other.
and
Yeah,
nothing else.
and that is very much just like how it would be in anime, where if a fight gets really insane, or if maybe they switch a realm or something. I mean, obviously this is still, they're making it realistic, but just like kind of the way they're feeling like it is can be, I guess, either looked at as, yeah, it's like when they do crazy like fights in anime where the background, like the surroundings change, or it's just like they get really personal with it, like you would along with the fact that, like, you know, in a lot of animes they do a lot of things where it's, hey, here's a flashback in the middle of the fight, like referencing this thing that occurred or something like that. And they more or less do that throughout this fight, where they keep switching ages of them and their visions of each other, where it's like, oh, you know, I'm looking at you and it's like it's you in modern day, oh, it's us when we were kids, and it's like flashing kind of back and forth. So there's all these different feelings of, oh, here's everything from physical moves that are like anime, to kind of the setting, to the flashbacks, and all of that really incorporates it. And I think it's really funny, and it's funny to say it because it's like, it's not true, but I want to make it true. Or it's just like, hey, you know, Creed 3 is like the first good live action anime adaptation we've gotten.
Yeah.
Everything else keeps failing. It's like, I'll just, you know, fuck it. Here's Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note, Attack on Titan. And it's just like, stop, please. These are awful. And then they just do this, and it's like, this
Yeah,
is
I think I
really
tried
good.
to watch like one scene of the Full Metal movie, and it was like, oh no, this is bad.
Dude,
I don't like it at
I
all.
watched Attack on Titan part 1 and 2 on the plane, and I was just like,
You watched both parts?
what I told people was I saw it so they wouldn't have to, because I would tell anyone I could never to watch those movies. But I just remember being on the plane like, that's fine. We don't have to make it to the destination. Just go down. It doesn't matter
I
anymore.
don't
I'm
want to live
done.
with this
I don't
knowledge
want to live with
anymore.
this anymore. This freaking movie's awful. I'm not gonna. I almost got into it. I was about to start talking about that shit. No. Other than like the full anime aspects that it was really doing, I thought it was funny to comparing it a little bit to Arcane. It had the similarity of the fight between Jinx and, what was his name? The one on the board who had like the owl mask, but he was like their childhood friend with the ticking clock.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forget what that kid's
And he's
name
a playable
was.
character too in League of Legends, right? I thought. I can't.
I think so. I think so. I don't remember what his name is though.
But the fight between them, during it, they did a thing of flashing back through it where it shows them as kids as well, like going back between that and modern
Yeah.
day. And that reminded me of that when they were doing that in Creed 3. Almost was like thinking of like the song that played in that fight too. So I did feel like kind of a similarity there, even though pretty much these were made around the same time as each other. Especially uh that both, I think, are really good, and both are actually really good at adapting what they're trying to take influence from. Considering Arcane's like one of the best video game adaptations as well in its own right. And we've talked about it before. Um, other than that, I think for like the characters themselves, it was an interesting new arc for Adonis because arc one is the coming of the character, I guess. Like here's the damn dude, you're going at it, huh?
Yeah, dude, I think I'm starting to develop like seasonal allergies because like last year I couldn't stop sneezing once like spring happened. And now it's like happening again and it's driving me fucking nuts.
You guys couldn't see it because it's only we changed it to now it's just one person on here at a time. But James has been sneezing this whole time, just been muted, just dying. I'm just watching it, still trying to like talk
Like
about this, but I'm like, and I'm like, just watching him like, wow.
it used to be
Dying.
that like I would be done after like 3 sneezes, and now it's like it could keep going
That's like
indefinitely.
half a dozen. I don't even.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Dude,
What
you
was
should have
I
seen me while
saying?
I was like out with my cats earlier. It was just like nonstop.
Oh God. Yeah. So Adonis, going through these three movies. The first one, it's like trying to rise up to the shoes his father filled of being a boxer, but also making sure he's not just there as, oh, hey, it's Apollo Jr. He wants to be his own man, while still like kind of embracing the dynasty his father created. And you see him like pretty much being trained by Rocky and everything else.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, the character rising up. And then Creed 2 is about lineage. It's about what happened between blood of Drago killing his father and that back and forth between him and his son, which we talked about earlier. So it's more of the sins of the father, I guess you would say, kind of type thing.
Yeah.
That more or less it's about that. And him also making sure he like owns the title and stays undefeated. And when you get to three is like it's kind of going fast where you see Rocky and by 4 he's kind of finished up for the
Dude,
most
it's so
part.
funny because like if Rocky was trying to retire for almost the entire series, and people
Yeah,
kept challenging him. So it was kind of funny to see in Creed 3, like Creed has like retired already, and someone brings him back in.
pretty much like I feel like Rocky 5 it took 5 movies for Rocky to be like, "Hey, come out of retirement and fight somebody for a second," which he really
Yeah,
just only does at the end. Whereas for Creed, it happens in 3 where it's like, "Hey, he's still young and we just got these movies." Like they're going much faster than the Rocky movies, I would say. And it's just like boom, yep, he's already done, he's finished and he's the champion, he retired. Comes out of retirement to fight his friend pretty much, and you're just kind of like, damn, because Michael B. Jordan's still hell young. Like he's young, but it's interesting that it would wrap up that quickly. And the premise of this one, like I said, the other two, rising up, sins of the father type thing. This one is more of sins of the past, but your
like
own
dealing with your
past.
own past and your own guilt and stuff like that.
This is the one where the first one it's about kind of him doing what his father did. The second one is about revenge and justice, all this shit. This one is just him. This is Adonis himself. This is everything he's been with himself. It has nothing to do with his dad or anything else like that. It's just like, hey, when we were kids, life wasn't great, but also I have guilt I have had for my whole life that I buried for the most part. And then the skeletons in the closet come out literally by leaving jail and coming out and starting to box and shit. And just seeing like Tessa Thompson's character trying to understand what the hell's going on. It's a very much thing of I guess animate too of you can't know about my past. It's too much, like blah blah, dark past,
Yeah,
all this shit. But also kind of the masculinity, I guess, in it. I guess you would call it toxic masculinity a
a little
bit
bit,
of
just
like
like the
keeping
idea of
everything
like
pent up.
yeah, like you can't show your emotions. That's bad. Like keep everything bottled up because like you don't want to burden anyone with your feelings and stuff like that. But it's like they're literally eating him alive, basically.
Yeah, and it's like fucking him up to the point where he's like drinking and everything else. Not like crazy, but he's like, it literally drove him to drink a bit.
Yeah.
And just seeing her trying to address that and get him to finally really open up to her to the point where it really takes his mom passing away for it to occur, which was a big thing because it's like Oh, she went pretty far when you really think about it. You see like Rocky's family and everyone pretty much croaked that was from his like era
Mhm.
at a certain point. Like Mickey dies in 3 because fucking uh
Clubber Lang like pushes him, and he just
Climberling
has like a
literally
heart
scares
attack.
the shit out of him. He's just like,
Yeah.
boo, and he's like, ah, he just fucking has a heart attack and dies. And I think I kind of laughed during that because I'm just like, yo, Mr. T literally scared him to death. That's crazy. I can't believe they've done this in this movie. Like he dies by Rocky Balboa? No, either Rocky 5 or
No,
Rocky
I think
Balboa.
Rocky Balboa was the one where like Adrian is
Adrian's
already
dead.
dead.
Adrian's dead. So his wife is dead. And then when they bring in Creed 1,
I
then
guess
they go,
Polly
Polly's
too,
dead.
or
I
just
think
fuck Polly.
Paulie dies in between Rocky Balboa and no, I guess Paulie's also dead. I'm not too sure. I don't remember if Paulie's dead or not. I think he dies in between Rocky Balboa and Creed. I think because he goes to see his grave too or something. Like all the graves are
Mm.
together when he goes to visit and stuff. He was like, "Oh no, I have cancer." And you're like, "Oh fuck, Rocky has cancer." And you're just like, "Oh shit." But
I literally forgot about that
yeah, that was a whole.
until
That
Craig
was
mentions
honestly
it, and
that's
I
what
was
made it
like, "Oh
interesting.
yeah,
Dude, the remission, yeah, that's what made Creed so fucking good was like the whole training slash remission shit. It was insane. But yeah, so like when you look at that, everyone around Rocky's era that you see in like the first few movies, and then yeah, Apollo's literally got killed before all of that, or in between Mickey and Adrian. So like in each movie, someone dies practically. And so it's just Rocky. And for Adonis, like his mom is there, like his stepmom is there. She somehow survived all of that besides Rocky. So she's the only one that's been around since him. So with her gone, it's literally just Rocky now at home with his family. And it's
yeah,"
just
all the way in Philadelphia.
yeah, but everyone else is gone. Like no one else is around anymore. Everyone's pretty much like passed at this point. So she was kind of like the second to last nail in the coffin. But I think they do a good job of that. I figured it would be similar. It felt similar to Creed, to Rocky 3 a little bit. It was like I feel like Creed 3 was a combo of 5 and 3, where Clubber Lang is kind of like Jonathan Major's character of
I
Dame.
did
But
get that sense a bit from the trailers, at least, where he's just like this big brute guy that just hits real hard.
yeah, that's the whole thing with Clubber Lang. It was just like he wasn't massive. Like I mean, Creed 2 was basically 4, where it's like yeah, Drago's literally massive compared to Sylvester Stallone, which is funny because you think Sylvester Stallone is big, and then you're like, oh, Drago's bigger. But
Dude, Drago is like huge.
yeah, even like the son is huge. Like watching them train together, it's so funny. And the fact that they're friends now is even oh my god, I love the fact that
Yeah.
that was even more anime, bro. That was like some like
Dude,
Goku
like
Vegeta stuff right there.
yeah, exactly. Like I love them like when Creed is like trying to get into shape for the match, and he's like just Drago shows up as just like a sparring partner. He's like, "Hey, like you sure you're good enough?" Because like earlier in the movie, his like hand got crushed or whatever, and
Yeah,
he's just like, "You sure you're good enough to fight me or to like spar?" He's like, "Good enough to fight you," or something like that.
yeah, this is so freaking good. Like their small talk together and how hard they go against each other. Holy shit! Like he beats the shit out of Adonis for
Dude,
a
like that
bit.
was like the craziest thing in Creed 2 is like the first fight between them. Like Victor destroyed Creed.
Yeah,
Like he literally ruptured a kidney.
which that was also similar to Rocky 3 because Clubber beats
Mhm.
the shit out of Rocky the first. That's because he like literally scared Mickey to death, and then
Yeah, Rocky's head was not in the fight.
yeah, he's like, oh shit, he's dying, so that's why he kind of was in it. I was expecting that to happen in this because of his mom. If she was gonna be out of
Oh
it,
yeah,
and that
huh.
would have, but it didn't, which was good because he was like more fully into it, and this took a better turn because they didn't retread on like doing Rocky tropes, which is good. They had just enough of like here's a little bit of stuff, but also we're not really going big legacy. Dolph Lundgren's not in this. Rocky's not in this. We didn't magically make fucking Mr. T appear in this either, which as some people are requesting. They're like they either said
That would have
make
been
clever.
interesting.
They were like, make Clever Lang's son pop in, and it was like, why? There's no connection this time. It's not the same. Uh, and that would have been even actually that would have been super anime if it's like, yo, we were both in the same like foster home and all this stuff, but also my dad wasn't there for me either, but he was different. He didn't die. What do you mean? My dad was Clubber Lang. Oh my god. That would have been some fucking anime shit right there. Oh my god, that would have been crazy. But no, and it was just his friend that you got really fucked up from the law because he had a gun. He went up for just only. I thought he shot the dude. He didn't even shoot the
Yeah,
dude.
I was
He
like,
just had
wait,
the
he went
gun.
away for 18 years for just having a gun?
Illegal possession, I guess. That's about it. And attempted murder. I guess they would say attempted. I would assume it
Maybe.
was probably illegal possession and attempted murder because he had the gun pointed at him. So it's like, oh, you're gonna kill this guy.
I also love those cops showed up like right when the gun got pulled.
Yeah. Oh my god. But it was interesting seeing like, oh, here's Adonis as a kid. He's not even the boxer. He's the boxer's helper for the most part. He's
It
not
was
even the one
interesting
with the
that he was
dream.
doing like the research on the opponents being like, hey, this guy that you're about to fight like hurt his arm like last summer or whatever. So wait for this punch that he throws because there'll be an opening.
Yeah. And he still it sounded like he wanted to box too. He just
Mhm.
like you could tell Dame was the one that was in it to win it for the most part until instead he was just in prison. But it was just well done the way they played it out of just, hey, here's hidden past, but we're also not gonna like make it feel really random. It fit because you really don't know everything that happened with this guy growing up, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of there was a lot to like give leeway to really explain all of it. And once you get it all, you're just kind of like, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense, and I get all the things that are going on here. I don't know how I'd rank it compared to 1 and 2. Not saying it's, like, worse or anything like that. I honestly, for me, I think in terms of emotion, it the most is still, like, the full-on relationship between him and Rocky in the first one, everything that's
Same.
going on. The second being, like, the whole fight with Drago, plus Drago's in relationship with his father. And this one, it was really well done, but it's just those 2 types of relationships that are occurring just are a little bit higher for me personally.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's hard for me to rank too because like I have a lot of nostalgia for the other Rocky movies. So just having Ivan Drago and his son Victor show up was like really cool. So as an individual movie, I probably would want to rank the third one over the second one just because I really like that personal dynamic between Creed and Anderson. But
mhm,
like I think just personally, I really liked the Victor Drago like character and the like the fact that they fight 2 times in that movie, and the first time he just, like, absolutely wrecks Adonis. So you're just like you have a really clear idea of, like, this is how dangerous this guy is. This is where Creed is in the beginning of the movie. How does he get past that, like, later?
yeah. Uh, but as a trilogy, these movies are fantastic. Like, this
Absolutely.
is such a good trilogy. Easily, like, recommended for anyone to watch these 3 movies. Even if you haven't watched the Rocky movies, I'd say you could if you don't wanna watch the Rocky movies, you could totally watch these without it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you're just kinda
totally.
like, "Oh, yeah, it's Sylvester Stallone," and you're like there'll be, of course, references in 1 and 2 you're not gonna get, like, you're gonna be confused a bit with the history of everything of, like, what's with the big deal about his dad, and why is Rocky so
They
important,
still
and
do a
also
pretty
who's
good job of
Drago?
explaining it, though.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would still recommend to watch the Rocky movies. I would say you don't have to watch 5 and 6. You could watch the first
Yeah, I would
for
agree.
sure, the first 4. If you're gonna watch them, watch the first 4. If you'd like, you could watch 5 and 6. I would personally still do it just to knock them all out. I think they're still entertaining to say the least. Like, you're not gonna be, like, disappointed watching 5 and 6. They're just different. Uh, and if anything, it's like a nice little I guess taking it easier feeling where it's like you go through 1 through 4 and you're just like, "Yo, these are crazy," and right before you get to that crazy trilogy of Creed, you're just kind of like, here's some easygoing Rocky 5 and 6. Just kind of get through those. And it's more of like, here, let's depressurize the stakes a bit because it's kind of been crazy for the other ones where, the first two is, I'm gonna make something of myself. The third one, oh my god, you basically killed my trainer. I'm gonna get back at you. The fourth one, oh my god, you basically killed my trainer. I'm gonna get back at you. Also, it's America versus Russia Cold War. So
Yeah,
like
Rocky solves the Cold War.
it's really Rocky solves the Cold War. Hey, well, that's so different out though. We're all the same, yeah. Um, so and also if you do watch the Rocky movies, you'll finally understand the reference some people do with like, hey, Adrian, Adrian, hey, like people do that randomly. And if you like watch it, you'll then understand why that's that way. Uh, but for the characters themselves, I really thought Dame as a villain was well done. I did like that things get mended in the end too, because
Yeah,
that does do that whole Dragon Ball style as well, where it's keep befriending your enemies into allies, and the fact that they're kind of good at the end, especially being like, "Hey, we're just kids," and they're both crying and opening up to each other, which was very healthy, I thought.
especially since like the entire movie, people kept telling Creed like you have to let the past go. Like this guilt is killing you. Like what happened was not your fault.
Yeah,
And he like it's one of those things where it's like you could tell yourself that as often as you can or as often as you want, but there's still certain things that you just like can't stop blaming yourself for until the one person that you want forgiveness from gives it to you.
yeah,
And that's basically what happened at the end was like as much as Creed wanted to just not just forget the past, but like forgive himself for it, he couldn't really do that until finally Dame was like, we were kids, dude. Like, you did not put that gun in my hand. Like, that, none of that was your fault.
yeah.
And that's when he finally was like, you could see it on his face, like the weight lifted off his shoulders and stuff like that.
I think looking of what could come after, there could be a Creed 4, but there doesn't need to be a Creed 4. But there's a lot of I think Michael B. Jordan even said he wants to do some spin-offs, and you could totally
Yeah.
get some spin-offs done, whether it's like with the other boxers, whether it being like Drago or even Dame or
I thought it'd be interesting if they come back in like 10 years for his daughter to be like the female heavyweight champion or something like that.
yeah, I
Like
mean they
Amara
could.
Creed.
I think that would be I mean it's kind of like I guess it would is there's not really much for like female boxing besides I never watched it, but I know about it.
Oh,
It's
there
like
was Million
tragic.
Dollar Baby.
That's the one, yeah,
Yeah.
with the Clint Eastwood's in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like there's that, but what was his name? Freaking I'm trying to find the other boxer. The one he was training the whole time that like Dame beat up
Oh,
and kind of did dirty. Felix.
yeah. Felix El Guerrero.
Yeah, which I love that for Felix like they have the full he had the best opening. It
His
just like
intro was pretty awesome.
so freaking good. And it made me think too. I was just like, "Oh shit, I would love a movie about like a Rocky Creed universe movie of a Mexican boxer." I'm like, I would totally be down for that actually. Yes, hell yeah. So there's so much that you could potentially like open up to here. And it's funny because it's like this and like Mario are like two movies where we're gonna be talking about like, oh yeah, there's all these spin-offs that can happen from it. But I'd say all in all, great movie. If you haven't seen it,
Oh yeah.
if it's still in the theater, I'd say go check it out. If you haven't seen the other movies, definitely, dude, just start with Rocky and just go from there. See how you feel about it. If you don't even like Rocky and you don't want to do more Rocky, just then skip to Creed. Creed 1. See how that goes. It's more modern. I get like you won't want to deal with like the 80s kind of stuff that you get in like Rocky and stuff, but uh just try these movies out. And at least with Creed, I don't think you'll regret it at the
Oh
very
no.
least.
I don't think you'd regret any of them except for maybe Rocky 5, but I don't want to get into why.
Yeah, and like yeah, so there's all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, trying to think if there's anything else like uh all the characters are fun. I think the daughter was enjoyable. She had like she really did a good job of facial expressions of just being like
Yeah.
not what would you call it? Not sassy, but
Snarky.
snarky, yeah.
Yeah.
Like she always knew like she'd make it just like like that kind of face was great. And they did a good job, I think, with the sign language too, where they just kept subtitles going, which in the style of anime, if people like anime and they want to watch
Yeah.
Creed 3 are already used to subtitles anyway, and you're like, yeah, so instead of Japanese,
It's
you're
a
getting
second
sign
nature to
language.
me.
Yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. It's like this is nothing new. If anything, it's easier because it's a big ass screen, so I could see the words even better. So no problem there. But yeah, that was Creed 3. Great time. Uh, really fun. Michael B. Jordan is definitely in my I'm not sure where he is in my top 10, but for sure top 10 actors.
Oh,
Uh
yeah, for sure. I mean,
and
he's so talented that I'll pretty much watch him in whatever he's in.
yeah, pretty yeah, honestly. God, they should have just made a Black Panther. Uh
Oh my god,
they
yeah.
should have just brought back Killmonger. God damn it. But yeah, there's so much that he can do in so many different things. At least hope oh wait, we're not getting the Val Zod Superman
Yo, what
anymore.
if the
Bitch.
Atlanteans like found Killmonger's body? They threw it in the ocean and healed him.
I feel like they would have done it by now though.
Yeah.
It's too late. But I think also I could be wrong. I think he said he wanted to do like an animated, like a Creed anime or something, which would be I
Hmm.
would be so down for a Creed anime.
Yeah. Also,
But
I
all
guess
right,
technically it's not Atlantis, it was like Talokan, but yeah.
yeah. Next up, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which I think we talked about the first trailer we saw for it originally, and we were like, we were critiquing Chris Pratt's voice a lot for it. We were like, oh god, and we're
That's
just
just
like,
Chris Pratt.
at least Bowser will be good because it's Jack Black. We went and saw this. It was like Easter, and we made the mistake of going during the day. So
Yeah.
we were like one of the few just standalone adults, whereas everyone else were just bringing their kids. And I'm like, oh no, it's a theater of kids. And then so every now and
There
again
were
you just
literally
hear,
kids in like Mario costumes.
but you'd also every now and again you just hear some kid going like blah, 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 and you're just like, right, we knew what we signed up for when we came at this time. This movie was much better than I expected. And
Yeah.
I actually had a great time and enjoyed myself watching this. I I was literally prepared to come in and be like, fuck, this sucked, but at least Jack Black was
Yeah.
cool.
Well, especially since like a bunch of the reviews were like, it's a kids movie. Don't expect it to be like a nostalgia bait like thing. It's like hard to describe, I guess, but basically people were like, it's meant for kids. Don't expect it to be catering towards the nostalgia adult crowd.
Yeah.
But and I could see that now, like having watched the movie, like the tone is still very like juvenile and not like in a bad way, but just it's definitely meant for kids for you to bring
Yeah.
your kids to see the movie. But there were still also plenty of like references to Mario like game
A
stuff and
bunch
just like
of references
little
that
touches that they don't even like highlight. It's just like if you've played these games and
and the
you'll
kids
see
aren't
it.
gonna know because a lot of these kids have not played like if it's the average kid nowadays, the oldest game maybe that they played is probably Mario Galaxy. Or
Yeah.
actually, you know what? I feel like maybe their parents go like, "Oh, check out the first one, and you could play it on Switch Online or whatever, and you play Super Mario Bros. One, maybe." Otherwise, they played Odyssey. Like all the kids now, they probably just know
Yeah.
Odyssey and like the ones that have been coming out on like DS before they went to the Switch. So I think that's the relationship they've had. Besides, maybe I think probably actually the main ones being Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Are the other like two big hitters, Mario Party, that kind of thing. Whatever that generation could be. But uh for this coming in, it was well, first off, it was done by Illumination. For those that don't know, Illumination is the ones that did Despicable Me,
The
Minions.
Minions people, yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of like, okay, look at those movies. Don't expect something more mature than that. Like, let's be honest, we're gonna get that kind of level of stuff, and we did for the most part. I'd say it was still on par with that, considering you have Bowser attacking a ice kingdom of penguin people throwing snowballs
Yeah.
at them. So you're like, okay, yeah, it's not gonna be crazy, even though there's some parts where you're like, yo, I think that monkey died. I
Yeah.
think that monkey exploded. Like that monkey's dead.
Dude, that's like the funniest part of that
Which
whole
I
movie.
don't
It's
want to
just
talk
the
about, yeah, because
individual joke.
that's such a good that's such a good part. But this movie, I'm like, what do we want to talk? Do we want to talk about the voice actors, just like the voices first, and like the characters?
I guess like my main comment on that, because I don't think we need to talk about like everyone. It's just
No, no,
that
no, no,
like
not all of them. Just um, really like I think just like the five:
yeah,
Bowser,
like
Mario, Luigi, Peach, Donkey
I
Kong.
I thought I was gonna be really distracted by like everyone but Seth Rogen and Jack Black as Bowser and Donkey Kong, because like I feel like those voices fit, and also after the first trailer, I was like, oh wow, Jack Black literally just does the Bowser voice. It's pretty great.
Yeah, Jack Black's Bowser is incredibly impressive. It was so good. Like it was that was the thing. Like before the movie came out, we're like Jack Black's probably gonna do a great job as Bowser. I'm sure he'll steal it. And it came true. Jack Black stole the movie.
Oh
He
yeah,
was amazing in it. And he not only performed as just like here's Bowser, he also went, what if Bowser was part of Tenacious D? And you're like, wait, what? And you just have like Bowser singing, and it is so good. Like this is
dude,
actually
I've had
songs
Peaches stuck in my head for like a week.
you could listen to it on your own. There's a song called Peaches, and it's just him about talking about Peach, and it's just so freaking funny because the way he does it, he goes high on octaves too.
Dude,
So
he
it's
goes
like
hard.
it's a very well done song, and I'm like, oh my god, like they really went this far because you're like, oh, Bowser's gonna sing in it. What's it gonna be like? Oh, I wasn't ready for how epic this was gonna be. Okay, great. So needless to say, Bowser, Jack Black, well done. Best part of the movie, hands
Yeah.
down.
Other than that, though, like I was worried I would be distracted by like Mario just sounding like Chris Pratt and Luigi just sounding like
Charlie
Charlie
Day.
Day. Even though I love Charlie Day and I think Chris Pratt's pretty great for the most part. Like,
They blended with the character. When you
yeah,
looked at the when you just with I think they did a good enough job in the sense that when they spoke, I wasn't imagining the actors. I could see the voices aligning with the
yeah,
animated versions of these characters
and
as they went through.
I think the smartest thing they did was they started the movie with the
The
first
ad,
off the Mario, yeah, the ad for their business, and they used like the old school Mario rap, which was pretty great, but also like they had the accents, the original accents for that ad. And then you see them like in the pizzeria, like watching their ad, and they're like, "Oh my god, that was great. You think us doing accents for that ad was a little bit too much?" And it's just like, "Oh no, it was great." It,
and
like,
like Charles Martinez, like old
yeah,
Italian, like, wait, it's great.
and like one, that's hilarious that they reference the original like accents they have and give a reason for why they don't have it for the rest of the movie. So it's just like, oh, that's what this version of them sounds like.
Yeah,
They literally went with like their Brooklyn Italian, not Italian Italian.
yeah. So it worked well. I no longer complain about Chris Pratt. Like they proved themselves to me.
Yeah.
And it's not exceptional. It's just kind of like, yo, you did the job. I'm glad you're able to do the job. You've managed to like not take me out of the movie, which was like the one thing I didn't want this character to like these actors to do, specifically those two.
I think
Uh
the one that was the most distracting somehow for me was actually Seth Rogen as Donkey
yes, but
Kong, because it
it's
literally was just Seth Rogen, but his voice already fits so well anyway that it was like fine.
yeah, Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong, guys. Don't I'm not complaining. Honestly, it was great. I'm so happy Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong because it was so funny, but it just felt like it was just like, yeah, you could it's Seth Rogen in any movie, but now he's just a giant ape. And you're like, "Oh, it's Seth
Yeah.
Rogen the ape." And he does he that's the whole thing with him. He's like, "Yeah, I don't do like accents or anything. I'm just going to be like my voice." And
Dude,
that
he even did his like stoner like laugh. It was
like
so funny.
they do it, and it gets me every single time. That laugh gets me. So he's like, he does the laugh, and you're watching the Donkey Kong mouth move, with like you're watching the monkey mouth with the Seth Rogen laugh. And it's the funniest shit in the world. I was laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, oh, this is the best. This is like so hilarious. The fact that they were able to pull that off. And aside from that, like him as Donkey Kong worked fine. I could
Mhm.
definitely see a whole movie of just Donkey Kong with Seth Rogen
Dude, yeah,
taking the
like
helm of it.
if you want to get into it real quick, like I could see there being
Well,
a
we'll,
movie
we'll,
about the
we'll,
Kong
we'll do it after. We'll do
later.
it after.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he does great, and then the last one, or I guess last two, Toad was cool. I like Toad. Keegan
Dude, if
Michael
you
Key did a
didn't tell
great
me
job
that
with
was
that high
Keegan Michael
pitch.
Key, I would not have known that.
Yeah, he did a great job. High pitched. Nothing really else to say. He just did great. And Anya Taylor-Joy's Peach was good. It was just Peach. It was just like okay, but it wasn't like the full like "Woo Mario," like the whole
Yeah.
like overly just like
I feel like
making
that
sounds.
would have gotten like exhausting by the end of the
Yes,
movie.
because it would have been the trope more or less, and they changed it where it's like, hey, Peach is like tougher in this, and I don't know if people wanted just hey, go rescue the princess movie, which I was like, I mean, I
I
don't
did like that
care.
they had a little bit of that, where it's like for the most part of the movie, she was trying to defend her own kingdom,
Yeah,
and then she eventually did have to kind of like bow to Bowser a little bit, and then Mario did have to like come and save her. So
but
there's a little bit of that.
it wasn't like I'm tied up, I'm like
No.
caught. It was straight up just like I've exhausted all my power, quite literally, because she eats.
Yeah.
What is she? She had a blue flower, so she was like ice princess for a bit,
Mhm.
and just like taking everyone down on her own, which was really great. But I think what they did, not like Anya Taylor Joy did a good job as her voice, but I really enjoyed the way they kept making her have facial expressions, where
Oh
she
yeah.
looked always just like, huh, what? Like those worked really well, and it's funny because I think because her facial structure is different than Mario and Luigi's. Like Mario and Luigi, they're just like, "Wah!" and they're fucking
Yeah,
noses
somehow
and
she
shit.
looks more human than they do.
Yes, very much. Like they look like a different
It's
species,
like
Frank.
literally even compare them to their own family, it's like the rest of their family looks like normal people and they're just for some reason small and fat and
Yeah, they're
weird.
just like just little like weird sized Italians. That's it. And then yeah, just the rest of the world's like, what? I guess that's normal. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, they did a really good job with their facial expressions. It was pretty funny. Uh, the movie itself, I think, I mean, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't like fantastic. They did a really good
Yeah.
job. I think because it was a kids movie, there's a lot of like certain plot points or like I guess pacing that they
Yeah,
don't
it was not a
necessarily do a great
thinking
job
movie.
with. Yeah, yeah, because it's like Mario and Peach's like first meeting just results in like, hey, come with me. We're gonna go save the world. Immediately goes to an obstacle course. Like it was so just abrupt. You're kind of like,
Yeah, it's like she didn't go looking for
okay,
him. He just showed up in the Mushroom Kingdom and was told maybe the princess can help you find your brother who's lost in the Darklands. And he just like found her and she was like, "Wait, you're another human. I've literally never seen another human in the Mushroom Kingdom before. Like, I don't even know where I'm from, apparently," which is an interesting maybe thing that they could use in a future movie.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, she just is like, huh, yeah, I'll let you come with me. You got to train first, though.
yeah, but yeah. So that was like super abrupt, where it was just kind of like, hi, I'm blah, hi, I'm blah. Want to go play together? Okay, it was just like that. There was no just kind of like, hey, where are you from? What are you doing? Like more of just like, hey, you guys should explain yourselves to each other for a second so we can kind of go with that. But being a kids movie, I understand why they wouldn't do that. But as an adult, I'm still just kind of like, okay, that was weird. All right, we're just kind of it was like I said, it just wasn't smooth. It was very just rough there. But I'd say that was probably the weakest point of the movie. Otherwise, like all the designs are really great. The animation's really good. I love the way they brought pretty much everyone to life. Everyone from Goombas,
Yeah.
Koopas, the more important, I guess, like Koopa characters being like the blue shell
Dude, the
tortoise.
one blue shell guy, dude, I didn't even like it didn't even occur to me that he had a blue shell and then like the Mario Kart thing until later when he literally was like, "You'll never get away from me. Blue shell." And then
Yeah,
he turned to the blue shell. I was like, "Holy shit." they for some reason brought that into this.
I
Uh,
also appreciated kind of like the regional differences with everything where it's like Mushroom Kingdom. It's a kingdom of toads, and you have Kong Country having all the apes and everything else. There's like the kind of like Yoshi's Wildlands. You see all the different Yoshis running around and stuff. But when you get to Bowser's, it's interesting because it's two different islands or like areas, land masses, and one is more of the like destroyed area, which was very that one was very interesting because you almost want to see a movie explaining what that was. It's like here's destroyed castle that's no longer inhabited. Was that Bowser's old castle? Like
yeah,
what's the history behind that? But within it, it's like what's out the outside land? Oh, dry bones are all around there. So there's a lot of dry
dude, that
bones.
was actually legit kind of creepy when Luigi got into the castle and then just like lightning flashes and there's like a bunch of shy guys.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like one island, there's like Shy Guys and Dry Bones. The other island, you have all the Koopas and Goombas and everything else, and it's like the main Bowser area. So it's cool having that kind of like separation because at first, when Luigi runs into that castle, you're thinking like, oh, is he going to see Bowser and everyone else in there? And it's like, no, this is literally just an abandoned old castle, which is very interesting. Uh, Otherwise, all the kingdoms were cool, the designs were cool. I think the what was it? The fucking star was insane.
Oh, the Luma. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that
Which
yeah.
again is another reference to a thing they could use in the future.
Was that a galaxy thing?
That was a galaxy thing, yeah.
Okay. And he's just like, "Oh, yeah, sweet release." This fucking
Yeah.
insane
The
just
only way out of here is death.
oh my god, I
It's just
loved
like, dude,
everyone's
even the end of the
complaining about him.
movie, like at the end of the movie when it's like the credits are over and it's like the movie's over. Now there's nothing between you and the void.
I was like, "Oh my god." That was great. That one was really good. That was, like, definitely for the adults because the kids would have been like, "What's he talking about?" It's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is literally the most like,
It's like, oh
dark."
yeah, the most horrifying thing is to be alone with your thoughts.
That is easily the darkest character Illuminations ever, like, done by far.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
doubt there's anything darker than that. That's actually probably one of the darkest animated characters in a very long time. Because I can't think of it like unless it's like an R-rated animated movie. It's like, oh hey, it's Watership Down or something. Here's a bunch of rabbits
Yeah. Oh my
fucking
god,
getting
dude,
destroyed.
Watership
It's
Down is
like,
such a horrifying movie.
yeah, and it's like, well, what's the star doing? Oh, the star is it's a very suicidal star. It's talking about everyone dying all the time. Oh, it's a kids movie. Yeah, no, that's cool. So I'm appreciative that they were able to get away with that because sometimes everything's very much like bowling bumper lanes. You want a lot of cushions and everything else. So it's nice to have something a little bit more funny and darker. Yeah,
Something for the parents to not lose their minds.
yeah, and the references for like the different generations was very well done. I think the most interesting one was the GameCube ringtone.
I forgot about that. That was
That
super funny.
was that was a good one because not everyone would know that, but if you knew, you knew because that's like us growing up was like,
Dude, I love that Mario, like, when he got, like, upset at the dinner table or whatever, he, like, went off to his room and started playing Kid Icarus on an actual NES.
yeah, there was a Kid Icarus reference at their place where they did the commercial and everything else was a fucking Punch Out bar.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
called, like, Punch-Out Pizzeria, and there
yeah,
was
that's
a
yeah,
Jumpman cabinet in there, which is the original name for Mario.
yeah. So very good references. They didn't reference everything, but otherwise they threw in a lot there. And I know,
Dude, they even had a scene with, like, baby Luigi and Mario,
yes, they did. Yeah, they fucking yeah, full on
and baby Peach.
actual like well done designs of them too. Like they pulled it off,
Yeah.
and I think it had just enough references, but they weren't throwing it in your face necessarily.
The one I keep
They're like, if
pointing
you
out,
know, you know,
yeah.
but it's not integral to the plot. It's there. We're having a fun time. And I feel like Mario is a franchise where you can get away with a lot of like fanfare of nostalgia, but
Yeah.
also they did a good job of not letting it take control of the film.
So
Uh yeah.
the one example I keep pointing out to people of like a game reference that they don't point out at all, it's just if you know, you'll recognize it, is so you mentioned he like the obstacle course training session, like
Yes,
towards the beginning of the movie, when he's finally getting it and like making his way through the obstacle course, there's a moment where he does a triple jump. And on the third jump, he like literally on each one of the jumps, he does exactly what he does in like Mario 64 and like the 3D ones, where on your third jump, he does like a backflip type thing. And so I was looking for it. And when he did the third jump, he did the backflip. And I was like, just like in the games. And it's like they don't point it out of like, hey, check it out. Mario is doing a backflip. It's like 2 seconds, if that. And it's
that's
just
good
like,
because I never played that one, so that's interesting.
yeah, so
Uh,
there was stuff like that
because a
all
lot
over
of
the
the obstacle
place.
course, a lot of the main stuff was just Super Mario Bros. One,
Yeah.
right? It was
Yeah.
just that, but
And then like another one is like Donkey Kong at one point during the fight does like a roll. He like turns into a ball and rolls. And he does that in the Donkey Kong Country games. That's one of his moves. So I was just
yeah,
like, cool. They're literally taking mechanics from the games and just putting it in there as like a thing that looks natural for the movie. But if you know, you'll recognize it's literally straight from the games.
yeah. So really well done there. I think they they found a good sweet spot. Most companies and creators don't normally get because a lot of them will either do too little or too much, and
Yeah.
somehow they warm porridged it, and I'm glad that they did.
Like
Uh,
the Doom movie when they're like, let's just have like a first person point in
hey, your
this
buddy in the
movie.
wheelchair turned into the fucking like the
Or like the Evil Dead movie, House of the Dead movie, where they just straight up were like, let's just put game like literally segments of the game into the movie.
Did I tell you I beat the entirety of House of the Dead 2 in one sitting? Or like one
Really?
playing at the arcade. Yeah. During
Oh my
Ty's
god, at an
bachelor
arcade?
party.
Jesus.
We were at the arcade. We threw a lot of quarters in there, but we got through the whole thing. We went beginning to end, got through House of the Dead 2. I ran out of quarters, so my friend straight up ran over with his and
That's
started throwing the quarters in. We're like, thank you. It was great.
actually
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. That shit was so fucking the lines in that shit was so fucking hilarious. Oh my god. The story of Super Mario Brothers. How did you feel about the whole like just the premise of, hey, these two Italian dude brothers are trying to start their own company, and they're made a joke for the most part, and go to another world, got to save the brother, conquer, just show that I can do stuff, prove your dad wrong,
Yeah.
identify with another guy who also has his own daddy issues for the most part. Oh no, problems come to the real world, save it, blah blah, and now you're living in Mushroom Kingdom at the end as a brother.
Yeah, it's weird because like the overall plot on a surface level is very basic,
Yeah,
where it's literally just like Bowser is trying to take over all of the lands in not like even our world, but just like within the Mushroom Kingdom area.
yeah. The fact that they
Um,
came to Earth was more of a like he wasn't even trying. That was just kind of like a, oh shit, this was an accident. It was literally just an
yeah.
accident.
So which is why it's interesting that like Mario and Luigi, they didn't even have any awareness of that until they just like accidentally showed up in the
Yeah,
Mushroom Kingdom. So the initial plot of like, or not even plot, but just the beginning part of the movie of like the Mario Bros trying to start a business and trying to prove to their family that they can make something of themselves and stuff doesn't really matter at all until like the
yeah.
very end when it comes
Even then, it
back.
still didn't matter.
No, it's
Like
just like, oh, they
you're,
finally showed their family like they did save Brooklyn with their plumbing. Not
the
really,
real
but
world, the real world stuff felt very like it didn't feel it was forgettable. It was just
yeah.
kind of like I had to think about it and go like, oh yeah, there was this whole thing that happened. Like you don't really, it just kind of flies by in the back of your head, and you're more in captured with Mushroom Kingdom, with Kong
Yeah.
Country and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it was great for kids, very simplistic. Like
Yeah, for sure.
it's a kids movie, but we always gotta understand at the same time there's kids movies that are very basic, very generic, very like low IQ, and then there's ones that are more intelligent, ones that do higher stuff, but they're like for kids, but you're just like it feels like they're really treating the kids like adults to an extent. Like, look at as an example, the animated series shows, Justice League, Batman,
Mhm.
Superman. Those treat kids like adults, especially when you get to Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, with the politics behind that of like their enemies with the shit they're doing. Or when you look at honestly, a lot of the Renaissance Disney movies from that era are very mature for when you're really looking at for a lot of them. They're musical and everything else, but there's some dark shit, there's some adult shit, there's a lot of big problems there. The DreamWorks movies like Road to El Dorado and Prince of Egypt, you know, those Prince of Egypt, that's like straight up just killing kids. But it's you know,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's a Jewish thing. Uh
Dude, the
a lot of
fucking
people
Road to El
go,
Dorado is such a good movie.
yeah. Like they're literally stopping human sacrifices, but they're basically talking about, hey, human sacrifices.
Dude, I don't think I'll ever
Evil
forget,
Spanish people. Remember
like,
how bad they could do things?
I don't think I'll ever forget that one line where, like, the priest guy who's just, like, been suspicious of
Sekal
the 2
Khan.
white dudes,
Yeah.
he's just like,
I never forget these
"Do,"
names.
he's just like, "Do you know why the gods ask for blood? Because they don't bleed themselves." Because
Do not
and that was
bleed.
yeah, and that was
Yeah.
his, like, thing where he saw the other guys bleeding, and he's like,
Yeah.
"They're just dudes."
Dude, straight up. Oh, what's wrong with the concoction? Oh, it needs more body. Pushes dude in, kills him, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, he made, like, a soul-infused panther robot. That
Jaguar.
shit was fucking Jaguar. That shit was fucking cool.
Yeah, like anyway. So that's what I'm saying when there is stuff like this and they do a good job, but also, you know, you can still make things bigger. I get that it's like for all ages, but you're definitely going for the littlest kids because those are the ones that are going to be pulling mom and dad's shirt or whatever, going like,
Yeah.
I want this, I want that, I want merch
It's like,
kind
I
of
feel
thing.
like this movie is definitely more mature than the Minions movies, but not it's no, like, Iron
I never
Giant.
saw them. I mean, I've seen Despicable Me.
Yeah, I saw, like, the first one, but
How many are there now? After I've seen the first one. That's it.
so at
It's
least
yeah,
I wanna say 3 plus the Minions movie?
3 how
Don't
many
quote me on
is it
that.
just 1 Minions movie or are there more Minions?
I don't know.
I don't I've seen yeah, okay, I saw the first Despicable Me. I know that the girl goes, "It's fluffy and shit," and you're like, "Alright," and then it's at Universal Studios, and I'm like, "I don't wanna do this." But I'm so tired of Minions. I'm just, like, seeing it. It's too visual for me. But,
Yeah.
I think their next movie is, like, a bunch of ducks migrating. That was, like, the preview for it, and they're like, "Yeah, this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
post Mario movie," and I'm like, yeah, all right. Have fun with dogs. That's cool. But the final three things for Super Mario or how do you feel about the Mario Kart stuff? I think they did
Oh,
a
I
really good
loved
job with
it.
the Mario Kart. Yeah.
Like, I almost wish that they hadn't put it in the trailer, so I would've been, like, fucking mind blown in the movie where it's like, "Oh my god, they're doing Mario Kart!"
Yeah. They had a fun time. I love that they create their own carts
Dude,
and
that's
they do it
straight
just like the game. That
it's
was
literally
so
straight from the
good.
game.
That was
It's
so
so
freaking
good.
good. And you have the dude on top, just like the ape up there, just like, yeah, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Uh I love the aesthetic design of all of the apes and their like hairstyles and everything else. Especially when they're building the cars, like you have ones with like headbands and everything else. They just look like these cool. You know what's funny? What it reminded me of? It fucking reminded me of Machete when they're like arming up all the lowriders and the
Oh, yeah,
fucking
huh.
like motorcycle and shit, and they're just preparing everything. I'm like, uh, I'm getting like Machete vibes and stuff. It's insane. Oh my god, so crazy. But other than that, the blue shell moment, you know, we talked about that, but that was really cool. I did like the relationship you have between Mario and Donkey Kong, just because there should be
Yeah.
like some form of rivalry there too.
Dude, I laughed
Uh,
so hard when it seemed like we were gonna have, like, a heart-to-heart thing where Donkey Kong is like, "My dad thinks I'm a disappointment," and Mario's like, "Oh, my dad does too." And then Donkey Kong, instead of being like, "Oh, you know what? You're not that," he's just like
he's right.
he's like, "Your dad's right, you suck."
That was so, dude. Donkey Kong was so good. The last few things, I had a few. Okay, first one. My favorite part of the movie was with a character who didn't even really talk by the name of Funky Kong.
Like he
Funky
literally says
Kong.
one thing where he's just like he opens the door to the Jungle Kingdom. He's like, "What do you want?" Like
Yeah.
we're here to see the leader of the Kongs. Like, okay, fine.
And yeah,
Just
he
like
just like
reason.
sends him in. I will say one thing I learned about it apparently was they were actually going to do the Donkey Kong rap during that scene instead of Aha Take on Me. It was gonna be Donkey Kong rap that they already had and everything was ready, and they just like I guess Illumination was like, no, we need something that could be more licensed, I guess, and they just chose that. I don't know what
Weird.
happened, but
I mean, I love that song, the Take on Me, but yeah.
and it worked. It did work. It vibed really well. But yeah, it would have been cool having the Donkey Kong rap because that
At least
you
they had
know,
it for when Donkey Kong like, actually
I mean
showed
they
up. That was pretty great.
yeah, I feel like they got to do. There's so much freaking Donkey Kong stuff they could do for Donkey Kong. Well, okay, yeah, but just watching Funky Kong take them through, you have Take Me On playing, and you get the first like real Mario Kart piece where he has the banana, and what does he do? He fucking throws the
Yeah,
banana peel, and the ape behind him sees it. And he's like, "Oh no!" Just like
yeah,
crashes and blows up, and you're like,
dude. Like, yeah,
"Yo, he's dead."
I thought he was just gonna crash into the shop. And it's like, oh, that's funny, and then he explodes.
It
And I was
just
like,
explodes.
oh no.
Bro, he killed a monkey.
Uh,
Oh my god, that was so good. That was so like it was so you have to understand too how funny that was though, because we're literally thinking, yeah, he's just gonna crash into it, but or also he's gonna fall over and the little cloud guy is gonna come and pick
oh,
him
that
up
would
or
have been
something.
perfect.
But no, it's so abrupt of just like, no, he's probably dead. Like that exploded.
And the fact that Funky Kong has like no reaction, he's just like,
No
yeah, this is
reaction.
just a
It's
normal
like, yo,
day.
I get away with killing people in my town all the time, and I don't give a shit. And I'm like, yo, that's pretty funky, man. Like, you're a funky monkey. I like you.
Mhm.
Funky Kong's the best. So that was great. The other thing for me that I feel like there was a post-credits scene, and it felt like a post-credits scene made exactly for me because I called it. I said it so many times. I'm like, oh, they're gonna put Yoshi in the post credits. Yoshi's gonna be in the post credits, and they do it, but they did it in a way I never expected, which was the ending of Godzilla
Like
1998.
almost exactly.
Almost exactly. So if you guys have never seen it, at the end, like they blow up Godzilla, or Zilla, whatever what you want to call him.
And they torch like all the eggs
Yeah,
in
they
the
kill all of the
stadium.
babies that are in the Madison Square Garden stadium. But after the movie's pretty much ending, like before the credits roll and everything else, they go to the garden, they like go through all the debris, everything's blown up or whatever, and they keep going and deep underground in the stadium. It's like you're going through all this debris, all this wreckage, and it keeps zooming in, and there's an egg intact, and you're like, oh my god.
One
And
last one.
and it cracks open and Godzilla pops out and it's over. And what happens in this, like, oh, it's the wreckage of like Bowser's flying fortress, and you're going through it. And one of the wedding presents was a Yoshi egg for Peach and Bowser. It keeps zooming in, and it's similar music, and you just see the Yoshi egg, and I'm like, I'm in the theater just like, no way. They're doing it. And they do the crack and it like goes black and you just hear like the Yoshi like like that kind of thing. And I could not believe it. They turned Yoshi into Godzilla in 1998. That was
Mhm.
so good. I can't believe I don't I want to meet whoever wrote that in, because I just gotta know, like, they just were like, yo, I have the best idea. You guys remember that one Godzilla movie from the 90s? Like how did that cross their
It'd
mind
be
when they were
so
writing
funny if
that?
that literally was their inspiration and it wasn't
Yeah.
just a coincidence.
Oh, of the Godzilla 98?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was for sure. They totally watched that and they took that as influence. But I'm just like, I want to meet the person that thought of that went, hey, I watched this movie once when I was a kid. We should do this. Like that had to be what happened, because it's so freaking insane that they actually did it. But anyway, the one improvement I would have made for that scene, instead of just Yoshi going like Yoshi, like instead of doing even that, was when it goes to like the clouds, you just see the tongue come out and go blap, and then it goes to black. That would have
Yeah.
been better. I couldn't guarantee. I'm telling you right now. This is a fact. This isn't me just going like I think it would be better. I'm like, no, I know this would be better. That would have been better. If you guys had done that instead. Uh, but either way, God, that was so good. I can't believe they did Godzilla 98. That was fantastic. Going into then the final thing I want to talk about here. This could spin off into so many things, guys.
Oh yeah.
So many things because there's so many themes from each game that they could turn into a movie without really like making it the whole premise, but like they can definitely incorporate that as like the whole thing. But as like as a way to just have another feature film for Mario alone. Like I feel like they could do Super Mario Bros. 2 to an extent, like throw
Yeah.
in Birdo,
Dude,
especially if you're gonna have Yoshi in there.
I could
Like,
see Baby Bowser and the 8 Koopalings showing up and saving Bowser. Because like last we saw, he's like imprisoned in like a bird cage,
yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
So there's a lot they can do with them. Uh, and they could keep continuing with Mario, whether it's Super Mario Bros. 2 stuff, Super Mario World stuff. Not even saying like yet of like the later games, but just doing. I think Super Mario Bros. 2, World, and Sunshine are just the
I
three
was
you
literally
just
about to
need.
say, what if they did Sunshine?
Sunshine would be a really fun summer flick to do. Like that would be the perfect summer block. There, that alone would market itself as the summer blockbuster. So you have 3 more Mario sequels right there that you can do, or even just combine Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Mario World into like some interesting concept of what you can pull that into, and then do like Sunshine as like a third one or something. But they could do all those. They can do a Peach spinoff, kind of exploring her origins, or push that more with Mario. But the thing with the Mario sequel is it's probably going to be like a lot of Yoshi too, which will be really fun. Which is why I think Birdo would be a great like kind of antithesis for that.
Yeah.
Uh, so maybe Peach spinoff about her origin. The one that's probably going to happen first before anything else is a Donkey Kong movie. You're going to have a Donkey Kong Country
Yeah, I
movie.
could absolutely see that because they already showed off like, Funky Kong,
Diddy
like
Kong,
Diddy
Dixie
Kong,
Kong.
Dixie's got to be in there somewhere.
There was the female one next to Diddy Kong. Wasn't that Dixie Kong? There was a female one right next to him in like pink and stuff.
See, that's another reason why I kind of want to watch this movie again because I feel like there are probably
References
so
you.
many hidden references that I didn't even see because I wasn't looking
Yeah, and
like
then
in the
there's
right
Cranky
places.
Kong in it too, and everything else. So, and they could put in King Cruel as the villain. So there's a lot they could do with the Donkey Kong. The other, I'd say, the one thing people would want as much as Donkey Kong would be a Luigi's Mansion movie. Very easy
Oh,
because
for sure.
like to have Mario go missing, that would be so much fun. Because then right there, you already saw Luigi afraid during this whole movie, and next one like his own movie would be great. Watching him like conquer his fears and stuff. So, and you could throw in Daisy there too. So he has someone, I guess, his own like interest like Mario does. And yeah, like there's so much that they can do. They could also they don't have to even make Bowser the villain in 2. They could just make it like Wario. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that can be done.
They also
And
already referenced Mario Galaxy, at least like 2 different ways. Like there was the Luma that was captured. And then at one point Peach says like that
there's
it's
a
a
lot of
big
different
universe
galaxies.
out there with
Yeah.
a lot of galaxies.
Yeah, so there's plenty they can do, and I want to see it all. I think they proved that they can do it, and I think Illumination either is going to have to get bigger to make all these happen, and not make them like all like they're doing a random duck movie right now, and it's just like, dude, just move on to Mario. Just only do Mario. I don't know if Illumination's big enough to do multiple at a time or what, but the other thing being,
I just love
and
the
this
idea of
is,
there being like a new MCU, but it's the Mario Cinematic Universe.
and they're matching everything up because this happened around the same time that the Mario land opened up at Universal in Hollywood, even though the Japan one is much better and bigger and has been around a little bit longer now. Uh, they're building like the Donkey Kong area too now in Japan, but all this stuff goes hand in hand, which would then lead to what you'd want later on for both park and movie after Mario and Donkey Kong, which is the other big Nintendo franchise, which is Zelda. And I think, it's like, do you want Illumination to do a Zelda movie? And everyone's kind of, someone brought it up where I'm like, they're like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, dude, make it an anime. Like, what? Make it a
Okay.
freaking animated film that's like in the style of Japan. Like, that would be phenomenal. And I'm like,
The other
that makes
thing,
so much more sense, actually. Yes.
the other thing that would work, someone pointed out Link is always a silent protagonist. So how do you get around a silent protagonist for a movie or a show? Have Gendy Tartakovsky do a Zelda animated show. Like after watching Primal, where like almost no one speaks in that, I was just like, oh my god, that makes too much sense. Right? uh,
How long have you been holding out on me with this?
like literally, I heard that like a week ago, and I was just like, oh my fucking god,
That
it's
is
so perfect.
that is so perfect. I'm already imagining just like Link looking up at like a castle and just like eyes going like
Especially with his art
glaring
style too, for sure. It would absolutely work with the Hyrule
with Zelda.
story.
And God, that is so fucking good. That is so good. That honestly,
I
dude,
wish I could
that's
remember
so
who
freaking
like brought
good.
that up.
Guys,
It
all
was
right,
in
I'm
like
telling
one
you
of the
right, that's gonna
IGN
be a TikTok
podcasts, I
clip right
think.
now. That's for sure gonna be a TikTok clip. I'm gonna remember. Be like, oh, when you edit this episode, make sure you cut that part because that's gonna be very
Just like
important.
zoom in on your face and just like the moment of realization.
It's gonna be like remember Parks and Rec when Andy finds out that Diane's pregnant when Ron
Yeah.
finds out at the same time, he's like
He's just like, oh.
he looks at the camera. It's like that. Oh god. Yeah, so another Chris Pratt. Yeah, so Mario movie, great time. Honestly, go see it. Go
Yeah.
it's a really fun time. I think you'll enjoy it. Just remember it's a kids movie. You have to go in with that
It's still
mindset.
smashing records like left and right though.
And Funky Kong still murders someone. It's okay.
Yeah.
People die. There is a suicidal fucking like insane like fucking star running around too in a cage. Uh but yeah, there's so much that could spawn out of Creed and out of Mario. It's insane. Two
Yeah.
characters that just do all this stuff. That's hella fun. But that's it. That's everything. We're all done for today, guys. Uh if you'd like to contact us, whether it is asking us a question you want us to read on the show, giving us feedback, you can at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Just the name of the show at gmail.com. If you can subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to or watching, that would really help us out. If it's Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. If it is Spotify, please rate us. And if it is YouTube, please like the video along with subscribing. And if you want to follow the show, you can on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Sutro Sidetalk, all one word. Been kind of dormant on TikTok, but I'm about to get back into it. I'm about to get to editing some more clips from the oldest. I think right now, the next ones I'll be editing right now will be from our Top Gun episode, just because Top Gun, I feel like, is still a little bit relevant from the Oscars. So I'm going to try to throw that in there while I can. And then you could follow James on Twitter at InvaderJim124. You could follow me on Twitter at GoGoComzilla. Like I said, next 2 weeks will be part 1 and 2 of the Destiny 2 Lightfall run through of like everything with that. So that's next 2 episodes. After that, most likely, but not for sure, but most likely we'll do a Star Wars episode about Bad Batch Season 2, Mandalorian Season 3. Later on, we'll probably do like I said, John Wick 4 with Evil Dead Rise or something along the lines of that, with like Scream 6 or something, very violent episode, I guess you would say. Eventually, we'll probably do some stuff covering like Hogwarts Legacy. I think Horizon Burning Shores is about to come out. I'm just like, fuck, I still haven't done Ghost of Tsushima Iki Island. So I kind of
Same.
want to throw those two things
I'm so far
together.
behind.
Yeah, so there's plenty to do for like games, movies that we'll talk about. We'll get to all of these. There's stuff that's pretty much like, I guess there's stuff that'll kind of age a little bit that we'll still want to cover, along with stuff that'll like kind of come out right when we watch it. and we'll just be like, all right, let's just talk about it now. So that's kind of how things are going. We're inching towards, we're like, what, 14 episodes away from 200. So we're getting close to episode 200 now. Plus, we're about to finish up our 5th year, I think, next month.
Dang.
So that's also happening too. Everything's kind of lining up the way it is. But that's been the show. We'll catch you guys next week. So long.
Thanks for listening.